What if a single choice could reveal the hidden architecture of your soul? Before you overthink, before logic steps in, one of these four houses already speaks to you. Not because it looks better, but because something inside you recognizes it. That pull you feel right now is not random, it's psychological. In a moment, you'll be asked to choose one house from the four you see. Choose the one you feel intensely drawn to, even if you can't explain why. There is no right or wrong answer. There is only honesty. According to Carl Jung's analytical psychology, our unconscious communicates through symbols, images, and emotional attraction. When we are drawn to a place, a house, or a space, we are often responding to an inner archetype, a reflection of our needs, fears, desires, and unresolved parts of the self. This is not a personality test based on logic. It is a mirror. Once you choose your house, stay with me, because the house you choose represents the inner world you live in, and the one truth about yourself you may not yet be fully aware of. Take a deep breath. Look again at the four houses, and choose. You are drawn to house number 1 because, deep inside, you crave clarity, control, and inner order more than you are willing to admit. This house reflects a mind that seeks structure as a form of safety, not because you are cold or distant, but because chaos once overwhelmed you. Your inner world is calm on the surface, deliberate, minimalist, and carefully designed. Yet beneath that calm lives an intense awareness of everything that could go wrong if you let go. You are someone who learned early that emotions become manageable only when they are contained, named, organized, and placed behind glass walls where they can be observed without drowning you. According to Carl Jung, this reflects a strong persona, the conscious mask you present to the world, refined, intelligent, self-controlled, and composed. People often see you as mature, reliable, and emotionally stable, but what they rarely see is how much effort it takes to maintain that stability. You do not fear emotion itself, you fear being consumed by it. That is why this house stands beside still water, not wild, not stormy, but contained, mirroring how you allow feelings to exist only when they remain calm and predictable. You are deeply introspective, yet selective about what you reveal. You think before you feel, analyze before you surrender, and often choose solitude not because you dislike people, but because silence gives you back a sense of mastery over your inner world. Jung would say your dominant function leans toward thinking or intuition, while your emotional life, the feeling function, has been trained to stay quiet, not absent, just carefully managed. This is why relationships can feel paradoxical for you. You desire deep connection, but only if it does not threaten your inner balance. You want intimacy that respects boundaries, love that feels calm rather than consuming, presence without emotional chaos. And yet, there is a quiet tension inside you, a sense that something softer, warmer, more spontaneous is waiting behind those clean walls. Sometimes you feel it at night, when everything is quiet and control loosens just a little. A subtle loneliness, not because you are alone, but because parts of you remain unseen, even by yourself. The water around this house also reveals something important. You reflect deeply on life, but often in isolation. You process pain privately, rarely asking for help, believing that strength means self-containment. And you are strong. But Jung reminds us that over-identification with control can slowly distance us from the unconscious, where vitality and emotional truth live. Your shadow is not darkness or aggression. Your shadow is vulnerability. The part of you that wants to rest, to be held, to feel without explanation. You may sometimes feel emotionally numb or disconnected, not because you lack depth, but because depth has been disciplined into silence. This house shows a soul that values self-respect, independence, and inner dignity. Someone who would rather build a fortress of clarity than risk emotional collapse. But here is the truth your choice reveals. You are standing at the edge of emotional expansion. The water reflects the house because your unconscious is asking to be acknowledged, not controlled. You are being invited, gently, to trust that opening a window will not destroy the structure you worked so hard to build. You do not need to abandon control. You need to soften it. When you do, your inner world will not fall apart. It will finally breathe. You're drawn to house number 2 because your inner world longs for warmth, belonging, and emotional rootedness more than anything else. This house speaks to a soul that feels most alive when it is connected to people, to nature, to memory, and to meaning. Unlike those who seek control or distance, you seek presence. You want to feel life around you, to be surrounded by something that grows, breathes, and remembers. The forest that holds this house is not accidental. It mirrors your psyche. You are someone whose emotions run deep and quietly, like roots beneath the soil. You may not always express yourself loudly, but you feel intensely. According to Carl Jung, this reflects a personality strongly guided by the feeling function, not in a dramatic or chaotic way, but in a value-driven one. You evaluate the world through emotional truth, what feels right, what feels safe, what feels authentic. Your inner compass is not logic, but resonance. When something feels wrong, even if it looks perfect on the outside, your body knows before your mind does. This house shows that you carry a deep need to belong somewhere, not just physically, but emotionally. You want a life that feels like home on the inside. Many people who choose this house grew up learning to attune themselves to others, often becoming the emotional listener, the quiet supporter, the one who holds space. You are sensitive, not weak, but receptive. You notice subtle shifts in tone, mood, and energy that others miss. Jung would say, your unconscious is rich, alive, and close to the surface, which is why you often feel emotionally full, but also emotionally tired. You give more than you realize. The light glowing from this house represents your inner warmth, the part of you that wants to nurture, protect, and create emotional safety. But here is the deeper truth. You sometimes confuse being needed with being loved. You may stay in situations longer than you should because they feel familiar, because leaving feels like abandonment, even when staying costs you your peace. Your shadow does not live in darkness. It lives in overgiving. You learned that connection requires effort, patience, and sacrifice, and so you quietly put yourself last. You fear emotional distance more than emotional pain. That is why solitude can feel unsettling for you, not because you cannot be alone, but because silence forces you to feel your own unmet needs. The natural setting of this house also reveals your relationship with time. You move slowly inward, processing life through memory. You remember deeply. You do not get over things quickly. You integrate them. This gives you emotional wisdom, but it can also trap you in nostalgia, longing, or quiet sadness for what once felt safe. Jung would say, your challenge is individuation, learning to separate your identity from the emotional needs of others. You are not here only to be a shelter. You are here to live. The path leading to this house shows that you are willing to walk through discomfort for emotional truth, but you often forget that you are allowed to receive the same care you give. And here is what your choice truly reveals. Your soul is deeply loving, deeply loyal, and deeply alive. But it is learning, slowly, that love does not require self-erasure. When you choose yourself without guilt, when you allow your inner home to belong to you first, your warmth does not disappear. It becomes radiant. You are drawn to house number 3 because your inner world is ruled by depth, mystery, and an intense relationship with the unseen. This house does not invite everyone, and neither do you. You are someone who lives close to the unconscious, close to shadows, close to questions most people avoid. The night surrounding this house reflects your psyche, introspective, private, and emotionally rich, yet often misunderstood. You are not afraid of darkness. In fact, you instinctively know that truth lives there. According to Carl Jung, this choice reveals a strong connection to the shadow, not as something evil, but as something powerful, honest, and alive. You sense that light without darkness is shallow, that happiness without depth feels false. From a young age, you may have felt different, older inside, as if you were carrying questions that had no simple answers. You think deeply, feel intensely, and often withdraw, not because you reject the world, but because the world feels too loud, too fast, too superficial for your inner rhythm. The glowing windows of this house symbolize a quiet inner fire, your awareness, your insight, your emotional intelligence. You may not speak often, but when you do, your words carry weight. People sometimes project onto you mystery, intensity, even fear, because you reflect parts of themselves they have not faced. Jung would say your dominant function is likely intuition, turned inward, allowing you to perceive emotional and psychological truths beneath the surface of everyday life. You are drawn to symbolism, meaning, dreams, and the hidden motivations of people. You read between the lines instinctively. You feel what others deny. This makes you wise, but it can also make you lonely. You often feel unseen, not because you hide, but because few people are willing to meet you at the depth where you live. The moon above this house reveals your emotional cycles. You are not constant, and you are not meant to be. You move in phases, periods of introspection, withdrawal, and emotional descent, followed by moments of clarity, insight, and transformation. When you are low, you may feel heavy, melancholic, or emotionally distant, but these phases are not weakness. They are initiation. You process pain by going through it, not around it. However, your shadow has a shadow of its own. You can become attached to your pain, identifying with it so strongly that you forget who you are without it. There may be a quiet belief inside you that to heal is to lose depth, that to be light is to become shallow. This is not true, but it feels true when darkness has been your home. You may struggle with trust, opening slowly, testing others before allowing them close. Love, for you, is sacred and terrifying. You want a connection that can survive silence, intensity, emotional truth. Anything less feels dishonest. Jung would say your task is integration, not escape. You are not meant to live forever in the night, but you are meant to bring something back from it. Insight, wisdom, emotional truth. Your inner world is powerful, but power without grounding can isolate you. The path to this house is narrow, suggesting that your journey has not been easy, but it has made you resilient, perceptive, and emotionally awake. And here is the truth your choice reveals. You are not broken, dark, or too much. You are a carrier of depth in a world that avoids it. When you allow yourself not only to descend, but also to return, to share what you've learned instead of guarding it, your inner darkness becomes a source of light. Not the blinding kind, but the kind that guides others through the night. You are drawn to house number 4 because your inner world is expansive, aspirational, and deeply oriented toward growth, freedom, and self-actualization. This house reflects a psyche that refuses to be small. You are someone who feels most alive when life is moving forward, when horizons are open, when possibilities are visible. The wide space, the light, the water, and the elevation all mirror a core truth about you. You are driven by an inner vision of what life could be, not just what it is. According to Carl Jung, this reveals a personality strongly influenced by extroverted intuition, or thinking, paired with a deep, unconscious desire for meaning and fulfillment. You are future-oriented. Your mind naturally scans for opportunity, improvement, and expansion. You do not like stagnation, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. Even when you rest, part of you is already imagining the next version of yourself. People often see you as confident, capable, even successful. But what they rarely understand is that your drive is not about status alone. It is about alignment. You want a life that reflects your inner potential. You want your outer world to match the size of your inner one. The water surrounding this house symbolizes emotional depth that you keep moving, not still. Unlike those who sit with feelings for long periods, you process emotion through action, progress, and experience. When you are hurt, you don't collapse, you evolve. When something ends, you don't cling, you transform it into motivation. This makes you resilient, inspiring, and forward-moving. But it also hides a quieter truth. You struggle with stillness. Silence can make you uneasy, not because you fear emptiness, but because emptiness confronts you with questions you cannot solve through achievement. Jung would say your shadow lives in restlessness, a subtle fear that if you stop moving, you might feel something unresolved. You remember pain, but you rarely sit with it long enough to let it fully speak. Instead, you build, plan, grow, and rise. This house shows someone who values independence deeply. You need space, not to escape others, but to breathe as yourself. You love connection, but only when it does not confine you. Love, for you, must feel like partnership, not enclosure. You are generous, charismatic, and often motivating to others, but you sometimes forget to ask, who motivates me when I'm tired? The beauty of this house can also become a defense, a polished exterior that protects a part of you that once felt limited, unseen, or underestimated. Perhaps there was a time when you felt trapped by circumstances, expectations, or emotional dependency, and you promised yourself you would never live small again. That promise became your engine. But Jung reminds us that individuation is not only about expansion, it is about integration. You are learning that growth is not only upward, sometimes it is inward. The mountains in the distance reflect your higher ideals, but they also remind you that reaching the summit requires pauses, grounding, and trust in the journey, not just momentum. Your inner world is powerful, optimistic, and alive with vision. Yet it is still learning that worth is not earned only through progress. And here is the deepest truth your choice reveals. You are not running from the past. You are running toward a fuller version of yourself. But fulfillment will come not when you reach the next level, but when you allow yourself to arrive where you already are, and recognize that you were enough even before the climb. Before you go, remember this. The house you chose was never a coincidence. It is a message from your inner world, a signal of who you truly are, what you need, and what part of yourself is waiting to be seen, understood, and embraced. Exploring these hidden depths is not just a journey for curiosity, it's a journey toward self-awareness, growth, and inner harmony. If this video spoke to you, and you want to continue uncovering the hidden truths of your mind and soul, subscribe to our channel and join a community that dives deep into psychology, self-discovery, and the wisdom of Carl Jung. Your inner world is waiting. Let's explore it together.